recorded on location from the Open Compute Project Global Summit in San Jose, California. On this episode of the podcast, I sit down with Nabeel Mahmood. Nabeel is co-founder of the Nomad Futurist Foundation, whose goal is to demystify digital infrastructure. And they have a focus on younger generations, providing educational opportunities and giving them access to our industry, which needs new people so much. Nabeel is a technologist, futurist, board member, and keynote speaker, and I'm really glad he sat down with me to talk about some big items, some of our concerns, and some of our hopes for the industry, and we had a lot of fun. Enjoy.
Nabeel Mahmood, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nomad Futurist. We are a non-profit organization, a 501c3, formed roughly about 2 years ago with the idea of demystifying technology for the young generation and addressing the human capital deficit that we are getting ready to face in the very short term here. And we'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
That's sort of like my day job, but it isn't because I'm doing it from the bottom of my heart. It's 100% philanthropy effort. My day job is I serve on boards for several companies that are either publicly traded or privately held, from a financial institution that's local here in California and organizations that are global in nature. We get involved in NLP, brain-computer interfaces, some AI and machine learning stuff, as well as designing, building, and operating data centers.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being on the podcast. I'm thrilled you're here. We've known each other for some time now, but we get to work together more closely now too, because Nomad Futurist and the Open Compute Project have formed an alliance to, leverage each other's resources to kind of solve those problems. So describe to me a little bit the alliance between Nomad Futurist and OCP. Like, we're both invested. We want to work together. Like, we have a personal stake in it, but I do think I'll say from the OCP side first is that the educational component, the human component, we're very deep dive on technology. We're very much in the weeds. We're very much at the forefront of innovation from an engineering perspective, but the human element gets lost in the middle of that. So I think that's where it's a good match for what you're doing. And then what do you see from the OCP side of how we're going to work together?
Absolutely. Before we get into that, let's talk about the gap that we've got.
Okay, we're going to go problem first.
Yes.
Because you said human capital problem that is going to be bigger. I think we're in one right now, and you think it's going to get worse.
Absolutely. So just look at the scale, right? So as it stands right now, 45 to 47% of the existing workforce, globally speaking, as it entails to technology itself, has been in the sector for about 25 years or more. Okay. The story it tells me is that if the average retirement age or the tenure that one works is 30 years, we're going to have a retirement party every day of the week, 5 years from today.
Okay. So just so everybody grasps that, we have what percentage of people who are beyond 25 years?
45 to 47%.
So half is within 5 years, approximately, is ready for a retirement party within the next 5 years.
Yeah. And I mean, we continue to see that silver tsunami exodus right now.
Right.
There's a lot of people that are exiting for professional reasons. The equation is actually even worse than what I'm stating right now. There is another 30% of the population that's been in the sector for 10 to 25 years.
Okay.
Now, if I put the age out factor in it, that doesn't mean that everyone in that bracket is at the 10-year mark and has only worked for 10 years.
Right.
There's been a lot of transplants from other sectors that have come into our space. So that number now gets much bigger than 45 to 47%. It's almost 2/3 of the workforce exiting potentially.
Oh my gosh.
Within the next 5 or so years, give or take.
I mean, I myself have been in the space for 13-ish years, but this wasn't my first career. So really, I'm closer to retirement than the statistic shows.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So now the third piece of the puzzle, or the problem for that matter, is that we are growing at a hockey stick effect as a sector.
Sure.
Where we were before COVID to where we're at today. I mean, you just look at the scale, how fast we've grown is ridiculous.
But we were saying it was a hockey stick during COVID or shortly thereafter COVID. The hockey stick's steeper.
It's steeper now. I mean, it's probably becoming a cricket bat now.
That's good.
Yeah. So the challenge that we've got is you can't backfish the existing talent pool. We don't have enough people coming into space. We have done a very bad job in our narrative to the open market. We are the youngest sector, relatively speaking, to other verticals and other sectors out there.
Right.
So, and that's something that's not being talked about at dinner tables at home. It's not something that people are pursuing just because they're passionate about it. They're not necessarily getting exposed to it.
Right.
So what we are trying to solve for is to create that muscle memory and that exposure at an early enough age that it becomes normal. So what I mean by normality is banking, for instance, is normal. Construction work is sort of normal.
Mhm.
Being a firefighter, acceptable, normal. Being a pilot, okay, it's become mainstream.
People have context for those jobs in our society.
Exactly. So when it comes to compute, we just take it for granted. It automatically appears. It's the Wizard of Oz that's doing all of this. And we just want it. And we don't know why it works, how it works, what purpose it's serving, what are all the founding principles and theories and practical applications behind it to support that experience. So I remember growing up as a child, and we actually, the family, had a dedicated travel agent.
Oh,
So if we were going on holiday or my mom and dad were traveling on business somewhere,
right.
the travel agent would come in, bring the tickets, bring the itinerary. I mean, it was all printed. As a matter of fact, the day before the flight would take off, they would actually bring the tickets at home.
Amazing.
Okay. Medical as well. Like we had a family doctor, a primary care that would come to the house.
Right.
When and if needed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I just had a conversation with my primary care last night over the phone because I'm traveling.
Right.
Okay. So experiences have changed. I can actually text message my doctor and say, hey, Nabeel's not feeling well at the moment. These are the signs. Could we get on a quick call?
Yeah.
And just walk through it. So those experiences are changing. It's information now. It's information at the fingertips. And we want answers immediately.
But there's a gap there, right? Just because, so the context is I still text my doctor and I need something, but there's a whole bunch of pieces that allowed that interaction to happen.
Exactly.
And those are invisible.
Yes.
It magically happens, as you put it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is, and the alliance with OCP is to address those challenges. So, where we sit and the way we look at OCP is on the leading edge, or maybe even potentially on the bleeding edge of technology. I mean, you guys are getting involved into standards in development technologies that do not exist today, and also involved in standards and technologies that are in the field.
Right.
Okay. So the idea is to bring that engineering mindset of innovation and what's practical to the forefront. And guess what it does? It excites people. Because we are creating a metaverse. No, this is not for Meta plugin, by the way.
Okay.
We're creating this metaverse, or potentially even space exploration, colonization eventually.
Sure.
By having these conversations, by bringing these perspectives that are different. And when we bring in young minds and expose this, they bring in a perspective that we're probably not even thinking about. So you and I were here last year, and we walked the floor here with several students. And I still today remember this conversation with this young man that was actually studying global positioning system, and with the tech stack that he saw in there, and this was not even actually something that was on his radar, he walked away with wanting to measure the accuracy down to millimeters on global positioning systems. Are we there yet today? I don't think so.
No.
Can we be? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So that young brain that was 14, 15 years old, it gave him that.
Yeah, he experienced this in a totally different way than you or I might.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's exposing those young brains, it's exposing those people that are not from the space to do things for the right reason. And another thing is also to bring people in from local communities to understand what this is really, right?
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. I just got back from Australia. I did a keynote out there, and we were talking about fusion energy. That potentially is the ultimate source. NGI recently had this massive breakthrough. Great. But nobody knows about it. We're still sort of stuck in nuclear. We can't even get it through our lobbyists and the government regulations. But here's the thing. What people don't know is where the problem is, right? So part of the challenge, the data centers globally are going to end up at roughly about 45.3 gigawatts of total power consumption this year. Okay, that's roughly about 1.5% of the global energy that's being produced. But our sector gets the bad press.
Right.
We are evil.
Yeah.
Right? It's 1.5%. Think of it. Steel mills. Nobody talks about that.
Right.
Okay. Other industries that are high carbon affecting initiatives or projects.
Yep.
No one's talking about that. Why? Well, we're on the forefront because everybody uses it, and the pundits have done a great job in bashing us. Okay. Another thing, nuclear. Why isn't it becoming normalized? Okay. Because people don't know. They're told that it's bad, it's evil. We've had 2 events in at least our livelihood.
Right.
Right, our lifespan for that matter. but those were human issues. They were human problems, the human errors, right?
Sure.
Now, granted, they were bad. Does anybody know what the actual nuclear production is right now for the entire power consumption globally?
Yeah, I don't know.
10%. 10% of the global energy that's produced is nuclear. And we can't get to 12% to address the so-called deficit that we've got.
Yeah.
Okay. So partnerships and alliances like this are to expose the sector, are to make sure that people are aware, that they understand that these engineering mindsets that are doing all of this good, there's a reason for it and it's not evil. I mean, everything is going to have some sort of a negative effect.
Sure.
Like brain-computer interfaces. Okay, well, yeah, you're going to control my mind. Well, okay, well, if it gets in the wrong hands. But on the same note, it helps the neurological disorder that we've got in the societies, right? It can potentially help somebody walk.
Right.
It could potentially give somebody vision.
Right.
So there's all this good that's going to come with it. And what we're trying to accomplish is expose the sector, educate people, whereby they understand why we're doing what we're doing, and knowing all the reasons behind it. I'm of the firm belief that if you actually have a strong foundation, they will do the right thing. They will ask the right questions. They will make sure that the right policies are implemented. They'll make sure that we develop technology set for the right reasons and technology doesn't get into bad people's hands.
Yeah, that it sounds like you also are saying that you don't want people to walk away, the general public or those who are not directly in our space, to see that don't get the opportunity to see the good and the reason behind what we're trying to accomplish, of a myopic picture of nuclear bad, brain control bad, AI is the reason why it's bad. There's a much bigger cause, much bigger reason for all these things to be created for the betterment of society. That's a piece we don't get into. That's a discussion we don't have in a very technical environment typically.
Absolutely. So in a way, we're humanizing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why can't technology be for the people, by the people?
Well, we're big fans of that here. I mean, we're all community led, and these people are community members, and that's who leads everything. That leads the content selection, the direction the community takes, the problems we choose to solve, and that human element, and those who need to be part of that discussion, the educators, young minds, is certainly a place where they can get a lot of access in this environment.
Yeah. Yeah, and engineers are actually the most introverted people, so it's potentially a good opportunity for them to be slightly extrovert and share what they're doing, all the good that they're doing.
The other thing, in the story you told earlier about the 14-year-old who was talking about the GPS and increasing the accuracy, the other thing I really remember, this stuck with me ever since that, is the value on the other side. So certainly those students get a lot by seeing what's possible, or they tell us what's possible because they're looking at it differently. But there's actually real job. There's tangible things here. This is a true, real path that exists. It's not just in a concrete building with no windows. They can see it. But the other part that really stuck with me was the engineers seeing the students' reaction to the technology and their eyes lighting up and saying, we get into our roles, into our jobs of just doing our job, doing the task. But watching someone experience it for the first time or seeing it with new eyes was great for the people here,
Absolutely.
The engineers here. I mean, it was this compounding energy that was, I'm like, my hair's sticking up on my arms just thinking about it. I just loved it so much.
Yeah, well, that was a wonderful experience. I'm looking forward to doing more and more of that.
Yeah, we've been brainstorming even this morning. I know you met with George, and I was talking to Jody a bit, but I think there's just so much we could do in this environment. And that's one of the reasons we formed the Alliance, is we don't have that human element. We don't have that perspective. We want that to be part of the discussion. And then, we can provide access to this technology and maybe more differently than, other trade shows or organizations that have a proprietary focus. We have a very community open focus here. So from our perspective, I think it's a great match.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, we're so excited to be alliance partner with OCP and looking forward to expanding and enhancing the relationship.
Yeah, excellent. Me too. So we have a little background, like problems today, why we formed the alliance, but let's look forward. We have other challenges to solve in technology with humans and directions. What's your take on, give me something in the next year we need to look at seriously, and then maybe 5 years, what we need to consider?
If you're talking just human capital, I think the biggest thing that needs to be addressed is to get people to be a part of it. Another part of the challenge that we've got is to ensure that people that are in the decision-making capacity, they're being provided right information. So it's not the blind leading the blind. So for instance, I mean, Google just made the announcement of, 500 megawatts of a data center that's going to be a nuclear data center in America. Yeah. Brilliant. We need to get more and more of those out there. And how that comes with the responsibility of making sure that we're feeding right information to the people, to the lobbyists, and so on and so forth. That needs to be addressed relatively quickly.
Yep.
As we continue to bash again the sector that we don't have enough power and we're power hogs. On the facilities and operation end, I believe we need to start eating more for our own dog food.
Okay.
Look at what the actual efficiency ratios are. Get away from pleasing just the shareholders. Let's do a bit more for the planet. So I think Planet Passionate probably could be a project.
Okay.
Let's leave this place better than we found it.
Well, and who better to have a voice in the planet than those who will use it longer than us, and you and I.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's getting those young people into this space.
Well, and we have so much growth. Like if we don't make those decisions today, the impact is, I was talking to Dean Nelson just this spring about it. Like the amount of impact we'll have now in the next 3 years is so much more than the last 10 or even 20 years.
Absolutely.
That the decisions made today will be more impactful than the decisions that were made 20 years ago. Many of them mistakes or neglect, I would say, in how we choose to utilize power or waste power or heat. You could undo potentially 10 years of history in 1 year.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that curve is actually getting to be much smaller. So I'll give you a simple golf analogy for those that probably do play golf.
Okay.
So the faster you swing, the farther the ball is going to go. However,
not in my case. I swing really hard. It doesn't necessarily go, but I'm with
you.
We
can fix that.
Okay. I'm fine.
So get the concept, right?
Okay.
I mean, the harder you're going to swing, or let's just, instead of take the word how, the faster swing speed is going to result into distance.
Yes, basically.
Okay?
Yeah, physics.
What comes with it? So margin of error is shrinking. So when you look at old people playing golf, they're driving like 200 yards.
Yep.
Every drive is in the middle of the fairway.
Right.
Relatively speaking. Younger people, they hit hard, they hit fast. Get what? The ball can go left, can go right. And it's the impact zone. So if you're off by millimeters on your downswing at faster speed, that reaction rate or the deviation from target is much bigger.
Right.
So where we're at right now in the day and time is that we are that fast speed. We're moving at that fast speed, whereby the margin of error, even though it might be 1%, but at a club speed of 140 versus 80 miles an hour, the margin of error is much, much, much bigger.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I never thought of it that way. And it's only, I don't think that right now I'm not seeing a limit to the speed of the golf club. It can go a lot faster.
It can go much faster.
It will go a lot faster.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, with generative AI, it's going to go much faster.
Sure.
With these large language models that we're deploying, it's going to go much faster. So the margin of error started to increase. So if you don't educate early on, if you do not build that muscle memory, we're going to make much bigger mistakes. And what I fear really is the fact that the society is going to end up like that movie, Idiocracy.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
So where they're going to be using Gatorade to
water the
for
plants.
Agriculture. Yeah,
it's what plants crave, Nabeel.
Exactly, it's the electrolytes.
It's the electrolytes. Yeah, that is terrifying because things are moving faster. If we don't get our arms around it and put it in the right direction, it could get away from us really
very quickly.
Yeah, we're building a machine that's going to get a lot more powerful, much quicker, and consume a lot more resources. Do you believe, or is AI and all this consumption, and this is me like reading into the headlines, the bad headlines that only give this myopic perspective, are we completely at odds with sustainability with AI? Like, does the growth of AI completely work in opposite function of sustainability?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
So again, I probably made the statement earlier today that we should be eating our own dog food.
You did say that. Software is good at that. I don't know that we're very good at that in physical infrastructure.
No, but we can deploy those software and those models on the physical layer.
Certainly.
Yeah. So a good example would be Formula One.
Okay.
Where Formula One was 10 years ago versus where Formula One is today is amazing. You're pulling 6G forces on hairpin turns. You're driving 220 plus miles an hour. And then, at turn one, you're coming down to 30 miles an hour. So that's all data driven.
Yeah.
You know how many sensors are under the carriage of a Formula One?
I've seen the AWS advertisement, but I don't remember how many.
Yeah, so there are 36 sensors under the carriage of Formula One. That's just one place, okay? And the reason for that is that if they don't have that much data to process, driving at 220 miles an hour, okay, at a hairpin turn, that car can take off.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Well, it's
so
like
you got to work on the downward pressure, right, to keep the car down.
Yep.
So the Formula One is actually, one great example of what these models and data is doing.
Yeah.
So faster speeds, great experiences. We have started to experience 6G plus of forces in the vehicle. I mean, your driver's losing 10 plus pounds every race.
Oh my gosh.
So it's all data driven at the end of the day, right?
Well, you got to take of material limits, things of that, the forces of physics, taking things apart.
Absolutely. So where I was heading down with that is like, okay, if we can actually bring the same mindset into the physical layer, we can go much faster.
And while keeping our data centers on the ground.
Absolutely. Yeah, literally.
Right.
It's not going to be in the cloud anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fast.
And that, simple metrics could be efficiency ratios. Like, let's look at utilization metrics. How do we scale it up? Maybe we start really deploying a modular approach, right? Let's build it for what we're using today and then add more capacity as needed, right? Let's not build N+1 or N+2 or 2N+1 environments anymore at a physical layer. Maybe we'll just build N and create that level of redundancy at the transport level and or the application stack level.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to solve that. And that's going to only be solved by these AI models, not by human.
Yeah, there's too much data for human to process it and consume and then make recommendations on it. The one thing that popped in my head is, with these AI systems, the technology itself, like we've been building data centers for traditional compute. The workloads are totally different. So we can do things completely differently too about moving workloads to different areas. Maybe it's environmental conditions, maybe it's cost of power, source of power.
It's application criticality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be anything.
But I'm not going to do that like a human's not going to do that with switches. Like AI is going to have to analyze all that data.
Absolutely. Yeah. So those models exist today.
So AI could be the hero in sustainability.
It potentially could be. Yeah, I truly believe. If we truly want to be sustainable, I'm of the firm belief that it's going to be solved by data and good data, right? Of course, the human intelligence is going to be a part of it. We need to define what those algorithms are. How do we calculate it? How do we measure it? What steps do we take to ensure that these models are viable and scalable, right? And of course, at the end of the day, we're going to make some mistakes, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But if foundationally we agree that that's the ultimate goal, we'll get to it.
As part of that is also realizing that we're making a mistake sooner. If the golf club's moving faster, we're going to have to analyze that and pivot at a much faster rate than the next standards body meeting or the next conference or something like that, right?
Yeah. And to add to, the relationship with open compute, the idea is as these things are happening, let's bring them forward. Let's not wait a year. Right. And, having these relationships basically would encourage people to being a little bit more open and vulnerable. I have actually really become a great fan of Elon Musk because of his open-mindedness. Okay. Right? No intellectual property. Here it is. Here's my idea. I'm doing this. Run with it. Make it better. We need to deploy the same thing. And I think our relationship basically enforces that to a degree.
Yeah, it certainly does. We do it, with hardware and innovation, typically hardware. We go in the firmware and software layers as well and physical infrastructure, but really our core competency was around server technology and everything that enables server technology. And, we're doing iterations to improve that at a faster rate than other places. But are we doing that from where a human interfaces with it? Are we doing that when that infrastructure impacts the environment? We're doing it in some areas, but there's certainly a lot of opportunity there.
Absolutely opportunity to scale it up.
Yeah, excellent. So looking a little further out, like those are immediate challenges, and we got to move fast. The cycle time's got to get shorter in changing direction. Long term, do you sit with hope and optimism, or are there things that stand in your way of that hope and optimism? Or what's the big 5 years?
I think you've known me for a few years. I probably am the most optimistic person out there, right? I mean, for flatlining and dying a couple of times, still looking at the glass half full.
That's impressive.
No, I'm very optimistic about the future. I believe the technology stack that we're working towards is for the right reasons. It's to improve the quality of the human life, or for the next generations. The fear that I have is that we have not done a good job with the narrative and educating people and exposing why we're doing what we're doing. Once we are able to solve that, good things are going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I share your optimism. I think that's why I enjoy talking to you so much, and why I'm so glad you agreed to do the podcast and talk with us. Yeah, I'm hopeful too. Certainly there's challenges to solve and go do, but yeah, the other thing that I've noticed is the increasing access to technology. That more people have access, and things like this make it for the many and not the few.
Absolutely.
I think that's what technology has probably always done, no matter what technology we're talking about.
Exactly. I mean, I can't wait for the internet bubble. Everyone's connected.
It's a fad, I've heard. The internet's a fad.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah, Bill Gates said in '93, "Who's going to use internet?"
Yeah.
See where we're at. Yeah, I'm waiting for the internet bubble when everyone's connected.
Yeah,
and that's going to change everything, and it's going to happen very soon over here, in a very short amount of time.
Is there? We talked earlier about what's real and what's not. You said the AI bubble, and I joke like the internet's a fad. Electricity was going to be the end of all times. What's real and not about AI? Right? There's a lot of people, and nobody has a crystal ball. There's talks of the soft landing on this AI growth. I mean, even us at this conference, I mean, we're growing like crazy. How long does this continue? Or what allows it to continue, or what keeps it from continuing? I guess is my question.
Well, so if I was to back it up, I mean, artificial intelligence is nothing new. And then if I was to even back it up, it shouldn't even be called artificial intelligence. I mean, it's an idiotic way to put it, right? There can't be anything intelligent that is artificial. The way I define that is still AI, but it's actionable intelligence, because we're making decisions on tasks and data point that we have captured. So it's basically repetitive tasks, really, or tasks that we don't want to do, that can be easily computed. Right? So I call it actionable intelligence. So if you were to take that term, actionable intelligence is going to scale up.
Okay.
So, Elon recently introduced the robo-van and the robo-taxi. He recently introduced the humanoid. So it's here, and it's here to stay. Okay, it's no longer fad anymore. It's here. It's real, people.
Yeah.
How much of that do we use it? That's yet to be answered. I mean, it's the same. If you were to put relevance of time, people use Sleep Number or Tempur-Pedic mattresses today.
Right.
That'll become a norm. They're not going to go back and sleep in caves, will they?
No,
so
probably not.
If someone's actually doing things for you, like, I mean, if you've got a humanoid at home that's able to order groceries, fill your refrigerator, clean your dishes, help your kids with their homework, would you want to have one?
Yeah, I don't think just because I don't like paying my electricity bill doesn't mean I'm going to go without electricity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to become a part of the society. It's going to continue to evolve and normalize. Do we call it AI tomorrow? Probably not.
Oh, you think that might change?
It might have a different term. And an example of that is, I mean, cloud or not to cloud, I mean, is a simple thing, right? I mean, cloud at the end of the day, at the end of the day, is compute.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's centralized versus decentralized computing. We have put a marketing spin. We've confused the industry. We've confused people in general. Oh, it resides up in the ether somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. At the end of the day, it's simple compute. It's a data center somewhere, whether it's on Earth eventually on Mars or probably just moving around in space somewhere.
Right.
It's still going to be a data center. So I believe AI is here to stay for the long term. Maybe we redefine it, come up with a new marketing gimmick or marketing spiel,
Sure.
but it's here to stay long term.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, we've already seen some examples of that, like Apple Intelligence, right? That's their take on it. It's not artificial. It's just part of your everyday usage.
Gosh, that took my idea.
They did. I think it's brilliant. Their stock price reflected that it was probably a pretty good idea to steal your idea. Maybe you can ask for that back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, what's next? Give me something. I'll ask you two more questions before we close up here. Is what's next on the docket for Nomad Futurist? What do you have coming up immediately?
We are actually launching a job board over here in the next couple of months.
Oh, great.
And the idea behind the job board is to help people simplify jobs. A part of the challenge that we've got right now, as it entails in the sector, is when we, as a sector, put out jobs in the open forums, we make it so bloody complicated that people just turn away, that we don't know. So our job board is going to be very simple. We're going to take a lot of the rubbish out.
Excellent.
It's going to be more personal driven. Alongside with that, we're going to be launching career pathways as well. So a minimum set of requirements, and also a Nomad Futurist Academy to help people understand and get the basics under their belt.
Excellent.
So that's in the very immediate future. We tested internship program earlier this year here in California. It was an amazing success.
Oh, good.
We're going to continue to grow on that globally. And we are working on hackathons and designathons. As a matter of fact, that was part of the conversation I earlier had today with George to potentially hold a hackathon or designathon at OCP, hopefully next year.
Excellent.
So that's in the workings. I eventually want to have some sort of Shark Tank play as well, whereby we do end up becoming an incubator.
You know, Mark Cuban just retired from Shark Tank. Maybe we can get him back in just for this.
Maybe. Yeah, it could be the Nomad Shark.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned something that sparked my interest because we were talking about like younger people and their ability, but these seem like more immediate short-term things. I totally agree with you. Like I hear two things, and maybe you shine some light on, well, there's no jobs, right? We do hear that, which really surprises me. And then we hear there's hundreds of thousands of job openings that nobody knows about that I can't fill because is it the requirements? Is it this like long list of these are the requirements I need to fill this role? Is that what these programs you're putting forth are trying to solve for?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the no jobs basically comes from the pundits.
Yeah,
the job market is shrinking. Everyone's firing. Well, we had a massive layoff at Amazon or Google or whatever. Okay, well, they had a business case. They oversaturated. They overhired.
Well, they're all shifting too, right?
Exactly.
They had roles. Now we have this AI thing. That's a totally different job.
Exactly. So the pundits are basically creating this persona of the sector that we don't need any more people. Yet, as you just said, there's a redefinition and reclassification of jobs and roles.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not able to get that narrative out quickly enough. So what we are trying to solve for is that there are plenty of jobs. There will be a significant amount of industry shrinkage around us, and that's known.
Sure.
Okay. But no one's talking about the opportunities it's creating. So, simple example. Every time we let go of a farmer, we're creating 10 jobs.
Really?
In our sector. Okay. Programmers, coders, UX, UI engineers. I mean, I can go down the list. Right. Down to the physical layer, technicians, right? And then you've got day two services. So it's 10x is what we're creating every time there's job elimination somewhere. Even in our industry, I mean, if AI ends up overtaking some of these roles.
There's examples here. There's robots from Moog. There's automation from all the major end users.
Absolutely. So it's created a lot more jobs and it's actually eradicated.
The other thing is, the jobs, I wasn't aware of that statistic in farming, but it is a really clear picture. Is the other thing is a lot of these jobs are unsafe or not very fulfilling, or, I think that's another thing that the pundits just get wrong.
Absolutely.
They say the jobs, there's no job. We're like, well, the task is so easily automated. what value does that job even have compared to the jobs that it replaces?
Absolutely. So, I mean, perfect use case. I was actually at Meta Data Center yesterday in Prineville. I met with these two ladies. They were OSU graduates. They have been in our sector now going roughly about 7 years. In talking to them, it turns out that they actually couldn't get a job. They ended up being EAs at Meta.
Okay.
And now both of them are actually running data centers.
Oh my gosh, fantastic story.
So did we just create jobs? Absolutely, yes. We skilled them up.
Yeah. And well, in full circle, where the Prineville, Oregon site was the first Meta OCP site. So that's the first OCP data center.
There you go. That was a great marketing spiel.
Yeah, yeah. But that was when they turned that on, that was the first, the most efficient data center from a material standpoint, energy consumption standpoint. And it's still providing opportunities and resources.
Absolutely. Yeah, they went from 1 to 7 data centers now.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah,
it's big. It's big. What can somebody do listening to this? You're going to leave the listeners with something. They turn off their podcast, they get done with their jog, they turn off the YouTube and get back to their work. What should they do next?
Boy, yeah, don't be shy. Ask questions, be curious, and learn about technology. Get involved. Find a mentor. There's plenty of great people in our sector. They might be introverts, but they're willing to help. Connect with people on LinkedIn, reach out, and ask questions, and stay hungry. Gosh, that sounds like a Dos Equis commercial.
Stay hungry out there.
Stay hungry out there.
Thank you so much, Nabeel.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.